Story Recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a fantasy, thriller, and superhero film called How I Became a Superhero. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. A superhero named Eclipso is walking in an alley when a mysterious man attacks him from behind, rendering him unconscious. When he wakes up, he notices that he's strapped on a bed with IV tubes inserted into his body. As he looks around, he sees a burnt-looking man strapped on a bed beside him. Eclipso panics and starts screaming for help. The next day, a man named Moreau is eating breakfast while watching a video about the upcoming hero rankings when the chairman suddenly calls him. Moreau picks it up and is ordered to go to a crime scene immediately. Thus, he drops the call and heads to it, where he sees Schaltzmann as he arrives. She tells Moreau that the crime is a case of arson wherein the suspects are two 18-year-old boys who were denied entry to the club the previous night. The theory is that the boys grabbed flamethrowers and scorched the nightclub before running away. Moreau thanks her for the information and then tells her to leave, saying he already has the situation under control. Later, Moreau waltzes inside the police department where he works and steps inside his boss's office. The chairman tells him he's been on a lousy performance ever since he stopped working for Pac Royal, which is why he'll be partnering with Schaltzmann. This surprises Moreau as Schaltzmann suddenly comes into the office. The chairman introduces Schaltzmann, talking about how she previously worked for fraud and was the valedictorian of her class. Moreau wants to protest, but the chairman tells him it's an order, so he walks away. As Moreau is checking his locker, he remembers an incident in the past where a superhero laid injured on the top of a broken car and feels troubled every time he remembers it. Meanwhile, a crime is being committed at a nearby school by one of its students. Multiple students frantically run away from one of their schoolmates, who keeps shooting fire at them from his hands. One particular student goes inside a bathroom cubicle and hides there. She starts crying in fear of the situation, triggering her powers. Electric bolts are coming from her eyes, causing another student to notice her. After a while, Moreau and Schaltzmann, along with other officers, arrive at the school to handle the situation. As Schaltzmann goes over their plan, she notices that her partner, Moreau, is missing. They hear a commotion outside, so they head to the windows to check it out. Schaltzmann sees a group of students being attacked with fire by another student. As the situation grows dire, they surprisingly see Moreau enter the scene and talk to the delinquent student. Moreau calms the student down as the SWAT team slowly encircles him. When the student looks behind him, Moreau quickly holds down his hands, and the SWAT team comes in to tackle the student. As they take the student away, the officers pick up two glow stick-like items from the crime scene. Later, Schaltzmann tells Moreau that the student denies being involved in the nightclub incident, but the forensic report reveals that the burns in the school and the nightclub match. Meanwhile, a student buys the mysterious substance from an unknown man. The student opens it up and inhales its contents. She then gets the power that temporarily allows her to shoot fire out of her hands. Another student also buys the mysterious substance, inhales it, and immediately burns pieces of wood. Elsewhere, Moreau visits his friend Henry, better known as Monte Carlo. Moreau sets the table as they prepare to eat dinner. After dinner, Moreau is hanging clothes inside a room where multiple newspaper articles are seen about Henry's former group, the Pac Royal. This triggers Moreau's memory of when he arrested a man in an alley, and the Pac Royal showed up to help him. He looked surprised at the three superheroes standing in front of him. Back in the present, Moreau asks Henry if he knows anyone with a power that can shoot fire from his hands. So Henry checks his database and says the description fits a man named Bracero, a 42-year-old man with multiple criminalities under his name. Moreau thanks him and proceeds to leave to return to work. Meanwhile, a man enters a secret hideout and demands to talk to the ringleader, Naha. As the man enters Naha's office, he tells his boss he has some news, both good and bad. The next day, the chairman shows his officers the footage of what happened during the arson incident at the nightclub. Moreau speaks up, saying their best lead is Bracero, a 42-year-old repeat offender whose power is shooting fire from his hands. The chairman tells everyone to follow Moreau's lead and dismisses them. As Moreau leaves, Henry gives him a phone call. Upon answering, Henry immediately tells Moreau that Bracero previously worked at a restaurant and attended Callisto's therapy program. Moreau thanks his friend and drops the call. Elsewhere, Callisto breaks up a fight between two of her therapy patients. But as she does this, she uses her powers on Alex, one of her patients, and sees his future wherein he's beaten up for money. She confronts him and asks who he got involved with, but Alex denies everything, saying he isn't involved with anybody. Callisto doesn't believe him, so she gives him money to pay whoever is after him. As the student leaves, Moreau arrives and approaches Callisto. He asks her if she knows where Bracero is, but she tells him she doesn't. Moreau tries prying for more information, but Callisto keeps telling him she doesn't know much about Bracero. Moreau gives up and heads to the exit, where Schaltzmann waits for him. As he meets his partner, Schaltzmann tells him that the medical examiner wants to see them. The two officers arrive at the lab and see a burnt corpse on the medical table. The examiner tells them the DNA from the corpse matches those found on the mysterious substances they brought for testing. This means the source of the mysterious substance is the corpse's blood itself. The examiner says the corpse died from exsanguination, meaning his blood was drained by his killer until he had none left. As Moreau looks closer, he's able to identify the corpse based on his neck tattoo. The corpse is Bracero himself. Later, Moreau reviews the case files about the nightclub incident and notices a young man catching fire and fleeing from the scene. He immediately calls Schaltzmann and asks how many were declared injured in the nightclub case. Schaltzmann tells him that 5 were declared, but as Moreau reviews the video, he's able to determine that 6 people were injured. This means the person who didn't declare himself injured is one of the arsonists. The next day, the two enter a hospital where they interview a boy named Amin, who's admitted because of some burns on his body. Moreau asks him where he got burnt, and Amin says from ironing, but Moreau doesn't believe him. So he shows the camera footage, but Amin denies that he's the one in the video. Upon hearing that, Schaltzmann sits beside Amin and asks him if he knows he'll explode in 24 hours because of the mysterious substance's side effects. Amin doesn't believe her, but Schaltzmann warns him that his friend is dead because of the side effects, and the only way to get the antidote is to take it from the manufacturer. The bluff works on the young man, so he starts confessing about a man named Ismail selling those things outside their campus. Schaltzmann asks for more information, but the only thing Amin knows about Ismail is that he lives in Bluebell Towers. So Schaltzmann thanks Amin for confessing and leaves with Moreau. Meanwhile, Naha gathers all his men and tells them that a box of their supply is missing. None of the dealers seem to care, which enrages Naha, saying Ismail is off the radar, which can mean that the police caught him. Naha orders his men to find Ismail and bring him back, so they leave and enter a car to look for him. Later, Ismail goes inside his apartment complex and makes his way to his room, but before reaching it, he notices Moreau talking to another officer. He immediately steps away, but notices that Moreau is following, so Ismail tries to make a run for it. Schaltzmann rushes to him as Ismail heads for the rooftop, but she loses him eventually. The officers go to the streets, where Moreau hypothesizes that Ismail went inside a convenience store. Moreau goes inside and quickly shows the cashier his badge, while striking up a conversation so the cashier won't panic. While Ismail is distracted by Moreau's presence, Schaltzmann creeps toward him with her guns drawn. As she attempts to attack him, Ismail charges his arms to shoot fire, but Moreau immediately blows a fire extinguisher at him and hits him with a container. Elsewhere, 2 patients, Karim and Vincent, are talking to Alex in the therapy program, trying to convince him to sell a substance to make a lot of money. Callisto walks in on them and instructs him to join the basketball game as everyone waits for them. Back in the station, Schaltzmann interrogates Ismail, but no matter what questions she asks or how intimidating she gets, she has no luck making him talk. This frustrates her, making her walk out of the room. Later, Moreau goes to a diner to grab something to eat when Henry contacts him. Moreau picks him up, and Henry tells him another superhero whose power causes temporary blindness named Eclipso went missing a few weeks ago. But before they can talk further, a loud explosion goes off nearby, so Moreau immediately drops the call and rushes outside. He sees an officer blind and wounded on the ground, so he uses his radio to call for backup as their precinct is under attack. Moreau draws his gun and slowly walks inside the station, where he sees multiple officers on the ground, and their visions are taken from them. He sees the enemy ahead, using his power to blind another officer. Moreau goes after him and sees Schaltzmann headed to a higher floor while pursuing an enemy. As Moreau heads up the stairs, he's horrified to see the enemy grabbing Schaltzmann and taking away her vision. The enemy runs, leaving Schaltzmann in a daze. Moreau rushes to her as she's slowly approaching a drop, but as he extends his hand to grab her, it merely goes through Schaltzmann's hand, causing her to fall from the top floor. Luckily, Moreau uses his power of levitation to stop Schaltzmann's fall mid-air. He heads downstairs to Schaltzmann and releases his powers, making her fall in his arms. As this happens, Ismail successfully escapes, thanks to the help of his fellow dealers. Moreau then recalls the alley incident with the Pack Royal wherein he first used his powers to levitate his gun and drop it on the ground. He remembers the utter shock and surprise he felt upon realizing he had superpowers. The next day, Ismail is tied up in Naha's office. He tells Naha he didn't betray them and only worked alone, so he didn't have to share the money from his sales. But Naha doesn't care, so he orders his men to kill him. As the men grab Ismail, He yells out that he saw a man named Moreau with a power that could levitate things in midair. Naha's interest is piqued, but doesn't stop him from wanting Ismail dead, so he grabs the wire and chokes Ismail with it until he stops moving. Naha then orders one of his men to find Moreau and bring him to their hideout. Meanwhile, a dealer gives Kareem and Vincent a new version of the mysterious substance. As the two inhale its contents, they immediately start shaking, and both collapse to the ground. Callisto is nearby and sees what's happening to her two patients through her powers, so she rushes to them. But when Callisto arrives, she's too late. The next day, a woman arrives at the station and tells Moreau that her daughter, Lily, is missing. So Moreau tells Schaltzmann to take the woman's statement as he'll investigate their home. Shortly after, Moreau arrives at the woman's residence with his gun drawn. As he starts searching for clues, Callisto suddenly arrives, saying she thinks the dealers took Lily because of her powers. Moreau ignores her, saying she didn't want to help before. He then searches for clues in a trash bin and sees a torn piece of paper with a code written on it. Moreau tries the code on the laptop, but suddenly, two men attack him from behind and inject a sedative, making him pass out. The men take Moreau down the parking lot and into a van, but unknown to them, Schaltzmann and Callisto were in the parking lot also. Moreau's unconscious body activates his powers, causing the van to contort, disabling it from moving. So the women use this opportunity to attack Moreau's captor. Schaltzmann starts shooting, and Callisto beats up one of the men, but one of the men realizes that Moreau is making the van contort, so he grabs his gun and starts unloading on Moreau. The van returns to its original shape, and the men speed away, causing Moreau to fall out the back door of the van. The women approach Moreau and rip off his shirt, only to see multiple gunshot wounds on his chest. Luckily, Moreau's powers are still activated, making the bullets float off his body. The women then take Moreau to Henry's apartment, where they put bandages on his wounds. As the women sit at the table, Callisto talks about when they first encountered Moreau in the alley and saw he had powers. The pack's royal leader, Gigaman, got intrigued by him, so he asked the chairman to make Moreau their liaison while keeping his powers a secret. Unfortunately, on one of Pac Royal's missions, Gigaman told Moreau to stay hidden while he confronts the enemy, but Moreau wanted to help, so he used his powers to lift a piece of metal and throw it at the enemy. Unfortunately, the enemy dodged it, and the metal went straight into multiple gas tanks, making a big explosion. Gigaman was caught in it, which ultimately led to his demise. Schaltzmann asks Callisto how Lily fits in with her story, so Callisto tells her that Lily is Gigaman's daughter. Schaltzmann pauses and gives him the crumpled note she found on Moreau. Henry immediately uses the code on his computer, prompting a profile of a woman named Elizabeth Cagliari, who happens to be Bracero's former therapist. They then concoct a plan for Henry to act as a patient and get information on Cagliari. The next day, Henry enters Cagliari's office and sits on a chair. As Cagliari leaves the room to fetch him water, Henry grabs the microphone hidden on his shoe and places it inside a lamp. After their meeting, Henry hooks up his computer with the microphone hidden in Cagliari's office, and they start listening to her conversations. Through this, they find out that Cagliari was recently fired from her previous work due to unethical practices. Schaltzmann quickly puts on her jacket and goes to interview Professor Dado, the man Cagliari formerly worked with. The professor tells her that a couple went to him and asked to remove their child's powers because it was causing him trouble. But Professor Dado refused, saying men shouldn't decide to give or remove powers. But Cagliari went behind his back and removed it anyway, and she was successful in doing so. Meanwhile, Henry hears Cagliari talking to someone about Lily through his computer. He listens closely and finds out that someone is experimenting on Lily. Cagliari tells the man she'll go to Lily to see how she's doing. As Cagliari arrives at Naha's hideout, Callisto follows her and takes a picture of her partner, Naha. Callisto then retreats to Henry's apartment, where she shows everyone the picture. Henry says they must storm the enemy's hideout, but Callisto dismisses this idea, saying Henry won't be effective enough considering he has Parkinson's disease. Suddenly, they hear Cagliari talking on Henry's computer. They hear her calling the police department and ratting out her partner, Naha. Schaltzmann says if the chairman sends his troops, it'll be a bloodbath. The next day, Naha tells his men that intruders are coming, so he instructs them to take all their products and flee the hideout. A dealer hurriedly starts throwing the products inside large bags, while Naha grabs Lily and takes her away. The other dealers inhale their new product, making their eyes turn blue. They then take cover as they see Schaltzmann firing at them, but when she stops, the dealers immediately use their temporary powers and shoot blue laser beams from their eyes. However, they aren't able to hit their target. Suddenly, Henry appears along with Callisto and Schaltzmann. They quickly use their fighting abilities to subdue the dealers and throw some of them off the floor. Callisto punches and kicks a bigger opponent, knocking him to the ground. But as Callisto turns her back, her opponent recovers. Luckily, Henry smacks the man from behind with a metal pipe, rendering him unconscious. Meanwhile, as Naha is dragging Lily away, a man stands in his way. Naha smiles as he sees Moreau right in front of him. Using his powers to levitate a piece of rubble, Naha instantly inhales his product, preparing to fight. So Moreau immediately takes cover and grabs a square-shaped metal. He then rushes toward Naha, using the metal as protection from the laser beams fired at him. On another floor, Schaltzmann is looking for Lily when a man suddenly attacks her from behind. She gets the man off her and immediately beats him using a combination of punches and kicks. As for Henry and Callisto, they successfully stop the dealer carrying all the products from escaping by subduing him before he can inhale the products and retaliate. Meanwhile, Naha hides behind a wall when he notices Lily trying to attack him. He takes a few steps backward, and Moreau instantly throws the square-shaped metal at Naha. Schaltzmann arrives and takes Lily away from the battleground while Moreau approaches Naha. He then starts throwing numerous punches at Naha, but his opponent retaliates by punching him. Naha grabs one of his products, inhales it, and heads toward Lily. But before he can fire, Moreau grabs him and takes him to the sky. Moreau then lets go as Naha's body starts to glow, and ultimately explodes due to an overdose of the product. The fight is over, and Henry, Callisto, and Schaltzmann greet Moreau with a look of victory on their faces. A couple of days later, news about a new powerful hero the public calls Titan breaks out. Every news channel talks about the same thing, and that's Moreau. Meanwhile, Moreau visits Lily in the hospital and brings her some food. Before leaving, Lily calls Moreau and tells him how thankful she is to him for rescuing her. Elsewhere, the chairman tells Schaltzmann that she can no longer keep Moreau as an officer, since an officer can't have powers. Schaltzmann tries to protest, but the chairman cuts her off and says he's reassigning her to become the Pack Royal's new liaison. With that, Schaltzmann smiles and leaves the office. Later, Moreau is standing on Henry's balcony as Schaltzmann approaches and gives him something wrapped in a cloth. Moreau unwraps it and sees that it's a superhero mask. Schaltzmann tells him she had it specially made for him and that she is the new liaison for the Pack Royal. The news surprises Moreau, making him stare at Schaltzmann, and without a moment's notice, the two kiss each other. Meanwhile, while inside her room, after being inspired by Moreau, Lily starts drawing a design for her first superhero costume.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.